Hello everyone, my name is Dimitri and welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson is going to be about relative clause. Without further talk, let's go straight to the main points of our lesson. So, today we're going to revise briefly which were the relative pronouns, how we use them in a sentence. Then we're going to define the relative clauses. Then, right after that, we're going to talk about the two types of relative clauses, about the defining and the non-defining ones, and later on, in the end, we're going to have some practice. So, let's start. First of all, can you tell me which relative pronouns in the English language do you know? One of them is who. Nice. Who is used to talk about people. Then we have which is used to talk about things, objects, and some other pronouns. We have that, and that is used for either to talk about both things and people. So all these are relative pronouns, and we just mentioned the ones that we most commonly use, that appear most often. So, let's look at some sentences where we can see how the relative pronouns are used in a sentence. So, the first sentence: Lord Thompson, who is 76, has just retired. The next sentence: This is George, whom you met at our house last year. And the last sentence: That is Laura, whose brother went to school with me. So, this is how a relative pronoun is put in a sentence. As you can see, it is right after the subject. That's its place in the sentence. Now we're going to take a look at another sentence. It says, I like the boy who was nice to me. So, probably each of you has some person whom you like. Maybe that person is in this class, maybe it's from another class. Each of us has a person that we adore. So the sentence goes like, I like the boy who was nice to me. So, let's look at the parts in color. So, in red, what we have here? That's right, we have the relative pronoun who. And at the rest of the sentence, with yellow, we have what? It's some information about the boy, which in this case is essential. These are the constituents of a relative clause. So, without the pronoun and the information about the subject, so we wouldn't have a relative clause. Now, let's try to define what a relative clause is, actually. So, the relative clause is a kind of a dependent clause. It has a subject and a verb, but cannot stand alone as a sentence. So, sometimes it is called an adjective clause. Why? Because it functions like an adjective. It gives us more information about a certain noun. A relative clause always begins with a relative pronoun, and this relative pronoun can substitute for a noun phrase, or a pronoun when the sentences are combined. For example, the book, which is now out of print, has all the information you need. So, with red, we have what? The relative pronoun which, and we have some information about the book. The book, which is now out of print, has all the information you need. Let's keep on with the two basic types of relative clauses. So, we have two types of relative clauses, defining and non-defining. First of all, we're going to take a look at a non-defining clause, and we have an example over here. It says, my car, which is brand new, is making strange noises. Car Let's see what happens if we remove this part in the commas. If we remove the part with the relative, if we remove the relative clause, what will happen to the sentence? The sentence will look like something like this. My car is making strange noises. So, do we know about which car we are talking about? Absolutely yes. Why? Because the fact that it is brand new is just some extra information, which is the case of the non-defining relative clauses. That's right. Now, if we take a look at another example, the car that I hired last week was making strange noises. Now, let's do the same thing with this sentence as we did in the previous one. Let's remove the relative clause. What will happen? The sentence says, the car is making strange noises. So now, do we know about which car are we talking about? Which car we have in mind? Oops. No, the girl is confused. We don't know about which car we are talking about. So, we say that here we have essential information, which is crucial for having a defining relative clause. Now, let's summarize this. The defining relative clauses contain essential information, without which we cannot know about what the sentence is, whether it's a thing or a person. Or, in the non-defining relative clauses, we have extra information which is not necessarily needed. So, as we said in the examples before, we have the car that I hired last week was making strange noises, and my car, which is brand new, is making strange noises. So, what's the case here? In red, what do we have in the first sentence? So we have essential information. It's important for us to know about which car we are talking about. We are being specific here. And in the second sentence, car which is brand new. What do we have here? It's about the extra information that only describes my car. Absolutely. And something that's very important for us to know, it's about the relative pronoun that. So, as you can see from the pairs of sentences, that is always used in a defining relative clause. Remember, never use it in a non-defining clause. For the non-defining, for things, we use which. Now, we're going to look at another pairs of examples. You can see a beautiful cat over here. So, the questions are related to the cat. So, the first one. Did you see the cat that's lying on the roof? And did you see the small cat which is lying on the roof? So, which one of these sentences is defining and which one is non-defining, according to the things that we said before? So, the sentence on the left is defining, that's right, whereas this sentence, did you see the small cat which is lying on the roof, is non-defining. Now, if we put these sentences here and compare them, so let's see what's the difference. How do we know which sentence was defining and which one is non-defining? What's the difference between them? Can you note any difference in spelling, in punctuation, anything? That's right. In the second sentence, we have commas in the non-defining, whereas in the defining we have no commas. So, once again, defining sentence contains no commas, whereas the non-defining sentence has extra information which is separated in commas. So basically it's all about the commas when we talk about the relative clauses. Now let's make a short summary of what we covered throughout the lesson so far. So, the theme of our lesson was what? The relative clauses. So we started the lesson with what? What was most important when we want to have relative clauses? We introduce them with relative pronouns, that's right, Which relative pronouns did we mention? Those were who, which, and that. They are most commonly used. We mentioned what? Who is used for people, which is used for things, and we can use that for both. Absolutely. After we mentioned the relative pronouns, we mentioned the two types of relative clauses. So, the two types of relative clauses were defining relative clauses, that's right, and the non-defining relative clause. So, what's the difference between two? We said that defining relative clauses contain essential information, whereas the non-defining have extra information which is not necessarily needed. So, and what did we say about the punctuation part? We said that defining relative clauses have no commas, whereas in the non-defining have the extra information separated in commas. Correct. Now, let's take a look at another example. A picture of 3 dogs. So, I'm the owner of these 3 dogs, and I'm saying to you, my dog is missing. Do you know which dog am I missing? With the sentence being like that? No, of course not. But if I say, my dog that has spots is missing. Now, do we know about which dog am I talking about? Absolutely. I am saying the dog that has spots is missing. So now you're perfectly aware that only this dog is missing. And why we didn't know in the first case? Because in the first sentence we omitted the essential information. The dog that has spots, only that dog is missing. So with that information being present, we have a defining relative clause which included the essential information. And now we know which dog is missing. That's right. So, another example. So, my brother's dog is sick. And my brother's dog, which he got for his birthday, is sick. So, between these two sentences, can you notice anything wrong? Can we use both of these sentences? Actually, both of these sentences are perfectly fine, because in the second sentence we only have extra information about the dog that he got for his birthday is some extra information. And why are they both fine? Because I know my brother, I know his dog, and he has only one dog. In that case, both sentences are perfectly fine. So pay attention to cases like this. Now it's time for a quiz. We're going to have an filling in the gaps exercise with several sentences, and you'll receive points for each correct answer. Take notes. So, think briefly about these sentences, pause the video, and when you want to check your answers, continue with the video. So, let's take a look. In the first sentence, we have the woman. Sentences about the woman. So, what did we say when we want to talk about people? Which relative pronoun is used? We use who. So, it's I like the woman who lives next door. That's right. The second sentence, the river Nile. So, can you see the construction? Can you see how this sentence looks like? It has commas. What did we say about commas? In commas, we have, that's right, extra information, and this is a non-defining relative clause. And in the non-defining relative clauses, when we want to talk about things, we use which. That's it. The river Nile, which is over 6,500 kilometers long, is Egypt's main source of water. Now the next sentence. It's about the book. The book is a thing, is an object. But take a close look. What kind of sentence is this? Here we have no commas. What did we say in this case? we said that this is a defining relative clause. So in that case, we use the relative pronoun that. Have you seen the book that I was reading this morning? And the next sentence, it's about Jim. Jim is a person, so when we talk about people, we use who. That's right. Jim, who we met yesterday, is very nice. And the last sentence, it's about a car. So the car is an object, obviously, and we want to talk about things, we use which or that. Let's take a look at the sentence. It is a defining relative clause, and that's why we have that. I bought a new car that is very fast. You probably now feel tired out of all these examples, but hold on, take up your strength. We're going to have 3 more interesting examples which are part of our quiz. So let's take a look at this pair of sentences. So we have beautiful doors over here. So which sentence is correct? My house that has a green door is located at Bourbon Street, New Orleans. Or my house which has a green door is located at Bourbon Street, New Orleans. So which one of these is correct? Which sentences should we use when we talk about my house? The first sentence is incorrect. That's right. And the second one is correct. Why? Because I have only one house, and the fact that I have a green door is just some extra information which is not necessarily needed. That's right. How about these pair of sentences? Picture some nice pair of shoes. So the sentence goes like this: shoes that have cheap soles make my feet hurt. And shoes which have cheap soles make my feet hurt. Now, which one is correct? The first sentence is correct, and the second cannot be used in this case. Why? It says, shoes that have cheap soles make my feet hurt. This means that only shoes with cheap soles make my feet hurt, not all the shoes in the world. So, only the shoes that have cheap soles make my feet hurt. We use defining because not all the shoes in the world will make your feet hurt, and not all of them have cheap soles. So that's basically the point here. And last pair of sentences, we have a beautiful diamond ring. It says, the ring that my grandma gave me is worth a lot of money. And the ring which my grandma gave me is worth a lot of money. So which of these sentences is correct? So the first sentence is quite alright. And what about the second sentence? It's also correct. Why? Because this truly depends on the context. In the first sentence, if we have several rings and you want to point out the one ring that your grandma gave you, you will say and use a defining relative clause like this: the ring that my grandma gave me is worth a lot of money. But if you only have one ring on your hand and you just want to describe, give more information, then you will use this, which will go like, the ring which my grandma gave me is worth a lot of money. Whereas the fact that my grandma gave me will be put in commas because it's extra information and we know exactly right about which ring we're talking about here. So now, according to your points, you will have different tasks for your homework. All of you will have 5 sentences to write with relative clauses with a little touch to detail. So, those who got 0 to 1 correct answer, you probably feel bad because you got some concepts wrong, but don't worry, watch the video several times look at the definitions, look at the examples, and think of some of you on your own, and then you will see how everything will fall into place. So, those who got 0 to 1 correct answers will note down the usage of the relative pronouns, who, which, and that. Plus, you will write the difference between defining and non-defining relative clauses, and then you're going to write 5 sentences using them. For those who got 2 to 3 correct answers, you probably understood the basics of the relative pronouns, but you may be struggling with the differences between the defining and non-defining relative clauses. So that's why your homework will be to explain the difference between defining and non-defining relative clauses, and then you will write 5 sentences using them. And for those who got 4 to 5 correct answers, you probably feel quite okay and satisfied because you got half or more than half answers right. So, you will use your creativity, and you'll need to write down 5 sentences about objects in your home and your family members by using relative clauses. So, it can be any object, it can be about a lamp, it can be about a book, about your mother or your brother. It's all up to you. For those who got 6 to 7 points, you probably feel the joy of getting most of the answers correct, and that's how it should be. So you're probably struggling only with the exceptions. Since you got most of the answers right, your job will be to research the exceptions with relative clauses and write down 5 sentences that can be used with the defining and the non-defining relative clause, as we had with the last sentence with the ring. And for those who got 8 out of 8 points, congratulations, you're a true champion. Your job will be to watch a short video or a film of your choice. You will write 5 sentences using the relative clauses, but you'll need to describe the 5 different characters that you watched from the video. That's all for today. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you find this video helpful. Have a nice day, and see you on our next lesson. Bye!